Welcome to What the Fudge podcast for May 31st, 2026, the I Am 1 Year Older edition. This week, I'm going to, again, try to keep it under 5 minutes. Let's see how we do. First up, it's the ever-growing AI infrastructure economic tug-of-war. Today, what we're seeing is that Anthropic is now officially surpassing OpenAI in valuation, meaning that it's hitting many, many billions of dollars following a bigger financing round than we've probably seen in some time. The competition is intense for compute power. That means that compute effectively is that primary bottleneck. We also see other players like Snowflake committing to other investments that's similar size for AWS. Also, that means the AWS line of custom silicon. So if you're familiar with the Gravitons, that family, all things related to Trinium, Inferentia, etc. And of course, SpaceX still building data centers to handle all the other demands that they conveniently put into their press release in anticipation of their IPO. So if you think about this in terms of the hardware realities, we're seeing this concept of what I think the pundits are calling a Ramageddon. And so if you've ever seen Micron stock lately, you would understand where that might come into play. Again, it's AI-driven demand for memory, plus it affects everything else that's in that value chain for memory in any device that uses or consumes some form of the chips that form the basis of memory. This also occurs with storage. So if you ever remember a time when storage became expressly expensive, I've also talked about my cheapest chips theory and what happens when we come out of this, and on the other side of it, what happens to the price of things like RAM, things like storage, but I digress. If you look at what's also going on around the hyperscalers, what they're building on in terms of capacity, there are some companies that are going to be facing somewhat of a sticker shock if they want to be part of this story, and I believe that this tokenomics story of rationing token usage will probably come up. We've already seen some internal references, allegedly at AWS, where they're taking down some of those burn as many tokens as you can as part of how you're measured as a AWS employee. But if you really want to dig into it, there's also this concept of what was previously the Anthropic mythos story of also, again, fine marketing if you can get ahead of it, meaning that there is bugs plenty. There is security issues aplenty. And so you've got everything from glassworm botnets, CrowdStrike concepts, all the way through to what the complexity would be of some having access to something like a Mythos, or what now Anthropic is calling a Mythos-like capability, so that you can use that in your CI/CD pipeline for increasingly shift-left notions of DevSecOps, which I talked about before. The other element, of course, is that there was all the fallout from things related to Google I.O., I think really great coverage from MG Siegler, as always, around all of the kind of forward-looking as opposed to shipping-related things for Google I.O. So a promise, I would gladly pay you Tuesday for a fully functional device story today. If you think of this as where else we might see, there's even concepts around where we have encyclicals coming from Pope Leo around AI ethics and that story. But ultimately, this means that humans are contending with the possible ethical and future outcomes, whether they are dystopian or not, as it relates to all things AI, automating away things that might be considered part of the human experience if you believe that you work to live or live to work. These are some of the philosophical things that are being done. If you look at what happens in terms of the CIO, CFO view of the world, there are definitely instances where granular governance around AI are getting more story coverage, as well as, I would say, from a cubicle-heavy or knowledge work-heavy job role, there's probably going to be some impact on AI in those areas around what it is that you do. So imagine, again, your job description. If it has 20 bullet points associated with it, those last 4 or 5 bullet points may be something that becomes, frankly, done by machine learning or artificial intelligence. And so thinking about what those next 4 to 5 data points might be, it could be, in fact, that you're essentially managing a digital employee. So you're almost picking up managerial responsibilities, even if you're an individual contributor. So with that in mind, I think it's important to also understand that if you look at what's happening with the story around AI as it relates to the ethics, as it relates to the economics, it's fair to say that this was a week of a lot of hand-wringing, a lot of ink being spilled, but I want to keep this under 5 minutes, so thank you again for listening to What the Fudge for May 31st, 2026. Take care out there.